As we stand right now, the regular season is coming to a close. It's been quite the year for the New York Mets. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of things going on in between. Now, as for the players individually, it's time to do our grades once again. This time evaluating them for the entire 162 game season. Just like last time, we are splitting these into 5 different parts. We have position players part 1, position players part 2, starting pitchers, relief pitchers 1, and relief pitchers 2. So let's start with part 1 with the 2022 Mets regular season grades.
On 3-2, Vader swings and misses, strike 3. He struck him out. 5 Met pitchers combined for the second no-hitter in New York Mets history.
So as for position players, we have a combination of whether they're a catcher or an infielder or an outfielder or a DH. They will be mixed in and out of these 2 parts. We've had a lot of good key players perform well all season, and we've also had some notable garbage this season. All the players that we mentioned in these 5 parts are all still with the organization. So if they're not here anymore, guys like J.D. Davis or Colin Holderman, they will not be graded because they don't have any relevance to this organization currently.
This team's going to hopefully win close to 100 games. This is just kind of our year in review type stuff. Obviously, they have the postseason to look forward to, and that content's coming soon, but this is just kind of a neat little bow we can put on the regular season.
This is definitely a Mets team that is probably one of the best that we've seen in a long time. Even though there's still stuff that we can complain about and stuff that we don't like, you can definitely say that there has been improvement with this organization compared to the last few years or even the last decade or 2 decades. So let's get into our regular season grades. First up, let's start with the guy who mainly leads off pretty much every single game, Brandon Nimmo. What do you think about your boy?
It's a little harsh on Brandon in the first half grades. You gave me a lot of flack for it, even though I was expecting a little bit more in a contract year. But, it's been the standard Nimmo. It's what he is. He's not going to be more. I expected more. I expected kind of a power jolt, but, he's just what he's never going to be. He's never going to see the power numbers, hit the 25-plus homers. He's going to have the 400-plus on base, hit the occasional singles, draw a ton of walks. I gave him a B+. It's just kind of that top 10, top 5 leadoff hitter in the game. He's not going to do anything too flashy. He's just got that grit. He just wants to grind you out. He'll make it 6 to 7 to 8 pitches every AB, and he's one of the best leadoff hitters in baseball.
Now, obviously, for the entire season, I went a little bit higher again. I gave Nimmo an A, only because I think he's just improved so much as a player. He has done a full 180 defensively, and he has looked fantastic in center field all year, not to mention the bat. I personally did not expect a power surge or whatever in a free agent year. I think he was going to show his value and show what he can be in a fully healthy season and be a 5-win player, which he has been this year. So we'll see what the Mets do and what Brandon Nimmo's future is with the Mets. But as for the season he's had, I don't have many complaints.
Showed himself to be a legit center fielder in this game, and a lot of people defensively were like, "Oh, Starling Marte needs to be the center fielder," and for him just to kill that debate and say, "This is my job. I am one of the better defensive center fielders out there," and he proved it. And like I said, like you said, he's going to be very interesting kind of contract he's going to get. We'll see what Boris gets him in the open market.
This is basically what I expect from a fully healthy Nimmo. I didn't expect him to be a full-on MVP contributor for 162 games, but I know he is a 5-win player in a full season. And now that brings us to another Andrew favorite, Brett Beatty, our number 2 overall prospect going into this year. He was called up late, obviously injured right now, torn UCL in his thumb. We don't know if he's going to be coming back at all this season, but we have gotten a decent sample. So what do you think?
I gave him a C. It's kind of dropped dead in the middle. Defensively, he's been brutal. Offensively, obviously, we thought, hey, first AP in the big leagues hitting a homer. Before he got hurt, he started to seem back to being Brett Beatty offensively. So right when he's starting to feel comfortable in the big leagues with that injury to his finger. But again, I do expect though to be a very productive big league player. Hopefully his little cup of coffee now has said, hey, now I've seen some big league pitching. I got to make some adjustments this offseason, and then we'll see him battle, I guess, Eduardo Escobar for the third base job next year or DH or whatever. Or maybe he's not even on the roster next year. So who knows? But for Brett, small sample size, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't god awful. It was just kind of what you expect from a rookie.
He didn't really have that big of a time frame to really prove himself. And that's the reason why I also gave him a C, is because I just think that the verdict is still out. We all know that there's future expectations that the Mets see this guy as a future third base option. And I am excited to see what he does to continue his career. I do see the ground ball issue still as a problem, but I think that was a little bit more of his advanced way to adjusting to major league pitching. The typical non-advanced hitter would not even make contact for at least 20 pitches that they see in the major leagues. The main thing that I look for with prospects is when they come up to the major leagues, if they look outmatched by major league pitching, and Brett Beatty definitely did not. So I'm excited to see what he does in the future, but the verdict is still out on him. Now let's get to Daniel Vogelbach, the big boy himself, acquired from the Pirates at the trade deadline for Colin Holderman.
Fellow 99 fridge protector, Daniel Vogelbach, a guy who came over right away, was on fire, and everybody's like, oh, this is the greatest acquisition ever because he's fat and he runs fast and he's hitting. Gave him a C+. He's still walking, and that's what he does. He just walks at this point. The power seems like he hasn't homered in a month, or, he's still getting on base. This was not the DH they needed. If he was a bench bat, I think he would have been a little more accepting of it. The fact that this guy was supposed to be the big bat really hasn't done it in a minute. Above average C+.
I kind of disagree a little bit. I am going to give him a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. I think he should have been put on the IL once he pulled that hamstring in the Yankee series, and that kind of just slowed down his production. I'm not saying that he isn't healthy right now, but I think that definitely slowed him down, and he's trying to kind of get back into that rhythm. I gave him a B because I still think that he is a productive offensive player. Is he doing what we expected him to do to protect that middle of the lineup and be a secondary power bat? Not really, but he is a productive player, and I do think that he is still going to be a productive piece for the postseason. Let's get to an obvious one. Darren Ruff, trade deadline acquisition for 4 assets. Let's keep this short and sweet.
What to give F? Yeah, dude sucks. 36 years old. You went and tried to create a DH when you just with an old dude and a fat dude. That was your deadline acquisition. And as much as I love Chungus, but Darren Ruff has been absolutely nothing. He hit you 1 double.
This guy's absolutely useless. I also gave him an F. Didn't like the trade when they made it, giving up 4 assets for a 36-year-old. We've talked about this way too many times, and I'm done wasting breath on it. He just went on the injury list with a so-called neck sprain. We don't know if that's a phantom IL type of thing for Francisco Alvarez. I've had enough of Darren Ruff. I hope they decline that team option because this guy is not going to get any better because he's 36 years old and he has been an absolute liability, creating another JD Davis type of hole on this roster. And that brings us to another player in that department, in Dom Smith. He was sent down to AAA because he was so bad. He was recalled, and then he was sent right back down, and he has not been back ever since. We've made tons of PSAs on him.
F. He's a minor leaguer. Again, like I said, he sucks. Stop crying because you've seen a couple Twitter highlights of him hitting AAA pitching. He should be able to hit AAA pitching. Turn the page. Stop recycling old Wilpon garbage. He's done. The story of Dom is over. Stop.
I also gave him an F. It's done. It's over. He's been given way too many chances to prove himself that he deserves a spot in this roster. He's a minor leaguer. He's hit like a minor leaguer for the last 2 years, and it's over. Just like the JD Davis era, it's time to move on. Now let's get to Eduardo Escobar. He was red hot all of September after a dreadful beginning to the season. This one's an interesting one. How do you see his full 162 games?
I gave him a C+ because he was trending towards D for 5 months of the season, and then he became the only offense. And kind of that middle where it's just he had a great month, and I liked the guys who show up into September, but he was just so brutal in the first 5 months of the year. You're just where did this come from?
I also went with a C+ for Eduardo Escobar. Even though September baseball is extremely important, I just see this guy as an average player. I still do. And once he snaps out of this hot streak, he's going to be the player that I expected him to be. Even though he has come up big for us recently, as for the entire regular season, he definitely has performed under expectations. I really have just spent this entire month trying to figure out if he was trolling for the first 5 months, and now he actually starts trying, or maybe it was just the competition that he was facing. But he did say that he was going to give us something to cheer about, and he definitely has done that in September. And that brings us to our shortstop, the $341 million man, the first year of his contract, 162 games. How do you grade him?
Gave him an A. This is what he's been. This is what the guy we paid for. Obviously, this is the first time in his career he's driven in 100. He's still giving you 7-win seasons. He's still probably going to be nominated for the Gold Glove in the National League, which some people care about, some people do. See, this is you give the $35 million AAV.
I went with an A+ for Francisco Lindor because he's matched the 2018 production this year, and he was fantastic all season. Did he hit a few bumps? Sure. But as for the overall value, we've always talked about how he's not an MVP type hitter, but he's an MVP type player. Well, a 7-win season, that's MVP caliber. He's been one of the main reasons why this offense has been able to sustain over 162 games, and he will continue to be one of the main reasons why this offense can be potent. We obviously know about his defense, elite, generational type of defense at shortstop. He's finally settled in Queens. The first year of his mega deal, I'd say it was a giant success. Our final player in this video, James McCann, the catcher, the $40 million catcher.
It's enough. I'm upset because you know what? I appreciate my players. There might be a player I don't like. Yeah, there's a few guys I hate on this team, but I want to cheer for him. James McCann is one of those guys. He's a great human being. God, did he suck as a professional baseball player. Dude has no talent. There's nothing there. As much as I want to troll here and as much I still love McChicken, the dude just sucks.
I'm just kind of just shocked that you're shocked. To be honest, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm still shocked
I'm not shocked that I know I saw everything you said. I saw again. But you know what? There's still troll in me to say, I'm still going to cheer and hope for the best.
I just am shocked at the fact that Mets fans thought that this guy was going to be good. He sucks. Knew it from day one, and I never want to see this guy on my baseball team ever again. And whether Francisco Alvarez has done anything, he has a hell of a lot better of a future than this guy. The biggest waste of $40 million I have ever seen in my life. Buy him out. I don't want to see him ever again. I'm giving him an F for go himself.
It's like looking back, I remember when we made the last videos for position players, I'm saying, hey, we're going to have, all these great players, and we're talking about guys that got at the deadline. There's a fat guy, an old guy, and Brett Beatty was here.
A fat guy and an old guy. That kind of reminds me of two co-hosts that I have on my show.
You over you. I'm putting you over you.